Yo, 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 yo. What's up, y'all? What's going on? What's going on with everybody about to hit that like, share, subscribe button one time for your boy, man. Out here working, man, for show, for show. Crazy. Another week of college football has gone down, man, and it was gone down. The top 10 have survived. Week 9 in college football, and the top 10 have survived. Great. It's great for college football. Great. It's great for all of us fans out there that love the game. We watch it on a consistent basis. I'm loving it. And now we get to look at the games. We're gonna recap some of these games, and then we're gonna make our week 9 picks, and we're gonna have a look at the top 25. I don't know if they updated the top 25 just yet, so we'll look and we'll see. But I don't know if they did or not. We'll check it out though. We'll check it out here and see if they updated the top 25 rankings. Cause Missouri is number 15 as of right now. Texas Tech moved up to number 14. LSU has dropped down to number 20. It looks like Cincinnati at 21. We're going to talk about that in a minute here. Michigan is at number 25, Arizona State at number 24. I don't know if they updated or not, but this, as I'm recording, this is Sunday afternoon, noon. So we'll see what happens. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go look at these games. Let's get a little recap of these quick games, man. These games that went down. First on the slate is Virginia. Number 16, Virginia taking on UNC. UNC has been going through a tough spell under Bill Belichick. They just have been. They've been really going through it with Bill Belichick being up there. And now Bill Belichick, I don't really know what is, what to say when it comes to Bill Belichick. I'm gonna stay out of all that personal business, all that personal stuff that people get into about Bill Belichick and that football team. But I will say this: that football team came to play yesterday. They did. They absolutely came to play yesterday. They wasn't playing no games. They showed up. They showed out. They actually gave Virginia a run for their money, and Virginia has been playing some good teams. And yesterday, when I watched that game, you're like, okay, North Carolina is 0-2 in the ACC. They're 2-4 overall. They're in this game and they're battling. And I actually, went back and forth with this game. And then I had to go back and watch it. And they did a pretty good job against this team. They really did a pretty good job against Virginia. They absolutely got after the run game. Really shut that run game down at West Virginia. Chandler Morris at times they got to him. They tried to confuse him up. It looks like Belichick was making some of the play calls offensively. I'm not sure if he made all of them, but Gio Lopez, the quarterback for UNC, he was 23 for 36, 208 yards, had one touchdown, two picks. Chandler Morris in this game was 20 for 35, 200 yards. He threw a pick and he had a touchdown in this game. The lead rusher for Virginia was Jamari Taylor, right? And Jamari Taylor had 21 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. And I know you like, well, that's 69 yards. He had one touchdown. But I mean, overall, you look at, the sack yards that Chandler Morris had took in this game in a way that North Carolina was able to get to him and confuse him. They got after him 6 times. Then you know what I mean? And UNC probably would have won this game had it not been for Belichick going for two. He got to do his thing. He got to do his thing. You know what I mean? He like, well, whatever. They didn't get the and them they didn't get the extra point. They just didn't. Guess you could have just kicked the, got the extra point, kept going in overtime, but they didn't. And Virginia survived. And I don't know if this is saying that North Carolina has gotten better. We're seeing them progress, and that's what you want to see out of a college football team. You want to see them progress, or if Virginia was exposed in this game. I don't know which one you want to use. I don't know which one you want to take in this game, but I thought it was a good game. I enjoyed, checking this game out. I definitely enjoyed it. Was shocked that, UNC, I thought UNC was about to pull off an upset, a top 25 upset. I really did because, I mean, you watch the game. everything about the game. If you just looked at the stats of this game, you would say that North Carolina won this football game. That you would say that easily. You would say, okay, you looked at the Steve, like they won this game, right? Yeah, that you would think so. They got to the quarterback more. They had more total yards on them on offensively. They ran the ball better. I think it was just a couple of plays. I think it was a play late in the game, interception, good interception by Virginia, but UNC guy just couldn't hold on to it. Jump, try to catch it with his hands, and he couldn't do that. And which brings me to just something sidebar, but good game from both UNC and Virginia in this game. Great game. Great game for the ACC, I think so. And Virginia's continually to roll. I mean, they're undefeated in the ACC right now. They're 4-0 in the ACC, and they're 7-1 overall. So that does put them at the top of the ACC. And 3 games left. Virginia is knocking on the door with 3 games left, man. 3 games left. That's they're knocking on the door. They are there. Their last couple of games they have left is Cal. They got the California Golden Bears. They got Wake Forest. They got Duke, and they got Virginia, and then they finish off with Virginia Tech. Virginia can absolutely beat all of those teams. They can. I don't know if they will, but then that puts them in the ACC championship, which is crazy. They beat Louisville in overtime, which was crazy. That that win there, and right now that's looking pretty good. The Florida State win was looking a lot better than what it has right now at the moment. Beating Washington State. Washington State, I think, is a good program, even though their record doesn't show it. I think that football team as a team is pretty good. But yeah, man, they look all right. And Virginia's looking okay, and they in the driver's seat right now to control their ticket to the ACC championship, man, to punch their ticket to that game. They're right there in the driver's seat. So I can't wait to see what's going on with them. And how their season pans out. You know what I mean? I think it's super dope, man. Moving on to the next one, because we got a lot of games to try to get through, man. Then I got the picks, so then we'll try to go through the rankings. So South Florida and Memphis. This South Florida and Memphis game, to me, when I watched this South Florida and Memphis game, I was shocked. And I must say, it was supposed to be a ranked football game. Had Memphis not choked and lost to the University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, had they not lost to UAB the week before they played South Florida, this game would have been a ranked football game, right? And South Florida's only loss had been to Miami, which is a top 5 team in the country. You know what I mean? They took a L, but yeah, I would still say that Miami's still one of the top 5, most definitely, right? Just me personally. That's that's not the correct rankings. Don't quote me on that, but that's how I feel personally about Miami. Anyhow, had they not took that loss against UAB, they would have been a ranked football game, and it just wasn't. And South Florida played North Texas so good. They put up over 50 points on a very good North Texas football team. That's quick scoring, that has a lot of talent down there. And when I seen that game, I'm like, okay, then I seen Memphis's weaknesses, and I'm like, South Florida can capitalize on it. And I don't know why. It just seemed they played so conservative yesterday against Memphis. Like, I don't think that they played their game against Memphis, and it cost them their season. And I must say, it cost them their chance to go into the college football playoff. I don't think that any longer. Memphis played spoiler, and they did it well. A shout out to Memphis, first of all, for beating them 34-31, because now, no G5 is getting into the college football playoff this year. It just isn't happening, right? I don't think it's fair to, you know what I mean? And what's my reasoning behind it? Because obviously you got to be undefeated in my eyes. I know it doesn't sound fair, but when you're playing at that competition, when you're playing a competition at that level that you're at, and you're not playing, you don't stand a chance against a maybe some Big 12 teams, some, and then maybe some ACC teams, maybe some. I'm not saying all, but and I think that's slight disrespect for me to say the ACC really, but you know, the Big 10, maybe in the SEC. I don't know. No, I'm sorry. I just don't think they stand a chance. You know what I mean? I just don't think that they'll stand it. I mean, of course they'll say, well, they beat a SEC team, right? They beat Florida. Yeah, they beat Florida by one. And I guess you could say that, maybe they can, but now we're talking a top four teams in each of those conferences. You know what I mean? We're not talking the low tier teams. We're talking the top teams in those conferences, in those respective conferences. So you know what I mean? Just a quick outlook on it. So the top three teams in the Big 12 right now is BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston. Cincinnati, by the way, Cincinnati is balling. Like they're low key, they are sneaky good. The top three in the Big 10, and we got to go top four, right? Because there's probably four teams. I think four in the Big 10. You know what I mean? Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and Iowa. If the college football playoff started right now, I'm pretty sure all four of those teams, I would say without a doubt, they can get in, right? Yeah. So just don't see any of those teams beating those teams. No, it's just no, don't even no. No, it's just not gonna happen, right? Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pittsburgh, um, are at the top of the ACC right now. And that's only because Miami had lost. But I mean, you got to put Miami there. But it's Louisville, and I would definitely want to say Miami. I gotta put Miami in that team, but technically by record and everything, and in the conference wins, Miami's a little bit behind when it comes to conference games. They'll get into heavier in their conference play, but I just don't see them beating Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia, maybe, but nah, I don't even think that can happen right now. Just I'm saying, just don't see that. But that's what I said. Maybe a Big 12, maybe a ACC, but not. And then did I even have to talk about the SEC? Do I have to go there with the SEC? You know what I mean? So if we go to the SEC and then just the top four teams: Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt. Those top five in the SEC. Shout out to the SEC, but no, they're not beating them. And so long story short, that's where I'm getting at when I'm talking about why I think that Memphis played spoiler and ruined the chances of a American Athletic Conference team getting into the college football playoff. Um, South Florida was supposed to run the table. Memphis was their chance, I think, to go to the college football playoff. I don't think you can't have a. I don't know if you're allowing a two-loss American Athletic team get into the college football playoff. I don't know if you're letting a one-loss American Athletic Conference team into the college football playoff if they're not undefeated in that conference. And I know it's like tough to say, but there's no teams that can possibly compare to any of the teams in the Big Ten and who they may have to play in their conference, or in the SEC in their conference, or even the ACC in their conference. So I just don't think so right now. Not right now. Maybe in a couple more years as parity continues to go around in college football, but as of right now, no. No, you know what I mean? Those games right now, a lot of people, even a lot of people would say those will be considered cupcake games if they took those out of their conference, right? That's what they would say. So and I'm not trying to disrespect any college football program. I'm just trying to be honest with this, right? That's all I'm trying to do. But no. And that's just going to be a continuing problem. I'll try to talk about this later on before I get off, because I do think that this is going to become some sort of a problem later on once this continues on. Like, how could you stop keeping, once the Big Ten is getting better, and as the ACC gets better, and as the SEC gets better, college football, how could you stop keeping more SEC teams out, right? Just gave you the top 5 in the SEC, and arguably those top 5 they can beat almost any team in the country, right? I don't think that's just me saying that. I think that's a lot of college football fans and a lot of college, from what we watch and what we see. Um, you could say Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Vandy can possibly play and beat anybody in the country, right? Which is crazy. But how? So if it came down to it, how could you deny a 3-loss team from the SEC being in? I, and I'm not even SEC biased. I'm just trying to be real and honest about just football and the talent level and what goes on, and if we want to see competitive football in the college football playoffs throughout. But that's just me. And they in Memphis, they played a great game and they beat South Florida. They didn't run the table, and I think that pushed them in trouble. I don't even think you're looking at that team anymore. I don't think you're looking at that conference as being one of the highest ranked conferences to try to go into the playoffs. I don't think that I think that's shut down this year. So I'm curious to see how the committee handles that. But we'll talk about that later on in the show, right? Later on. Um Ole Miss playing Oklahoma. I definitely took Oklahoma in this game. I didn't think Ole Miss, I thought they was look, it's not that I think Ole Miss is a bad football team, because I like Lane Kiffin, and I think that Ole Miss is a really good football team. I really do. I think I thought they had better talent last year, but that's just not what the eyes are telling us, right? I think this year is, if they got a chance to do it this year, this is the year that they got to pull this off, right? This is the year. If Ole Miss is going to pull this off, this is the year that they have to pull this off. With the remaining games being South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. Now, I do think that uh, they're going to play them tough. Could they win those games? Absolutely. Do they have the talent? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Ole Miss can finish off, run the table, and go undefeated and have a chance to play in the SEC championship game. 100%. 100% they could finish off this season without a loss. Ole Miss can. But I thought Oklahoma's defense was going to be a little bit overwhelming for them, because and I guess what kind of got me was the way that they slept walk through that Washington State game. And granted, Washington State is not a bad team. They're well put, but Ole Miss really struggled in that game. And I saw some things out of Trinidad Chambliss that I just didn't like. And I'm like, if you attack and you can get to him as much as kind of Georgia did, and can throw some different things at him like what Washington State did, you can beat this team. And I just didn't think that. And they must have looked at that and they said, you know what, we just getting better and better each week. All we can do is try to get better and better each week and go in and let's play a good game. And they totally flipped it around. They had Mateer throwing uncharacteristic passes that I don't think that John Mateer should have thrown in the game. Trinidad Chambliss, he still threw a lot of passes in this game. 44 was 24 for 44, with 315 yards and a touchdown. They was trying to put it together like as best as they could. I thought Oklahoma let this one slip from them. They come out and look, I can't even really say that they let this slip from them, because I think the defense did a great job against this Ole Miss team. They gave the offense ample time, but then see they would come out, have a good series, and then the next series is like they went absent. Like what happened to that? What happened to that same consistency on defense? And and granted, it's hard. It's not an easy task at all. You know what I'm saying? Doing what they were asked and cats to do, because neither one of the teams, you know, Oklahoma couldn't really get to him as much as I thought they were. And if they were able to generate more pressure on him, but Lane had a great game plan against this Oklahoma team, and I don't really want to take that away from them. You know what I mean? And I'm not, because they were able to cause a little bit more problems for Mateer in this game than vice versa. Than Oklahoma's defense getting after Trinidad Chambliss. And it was just a great football game. It really was. I don't think that the scorer could really tell that. It was an 8-point loss, tough. Oklahoma had the ball in their hands. John Mateer, he got there was a series where and they showed it and everybody's seen it that he should have took the underneath guy. And a lot of guys, he just play his game, manage the game. You know what I mean? Everybody's not meant to be a game changer at this quarterback position. And if he can remember that he's a great manager of the game, and he just does very good with that offense and managing the way that he does, I think that'll be fine. But now Oklahoma has a tough out and a tough gauntlet of teams. I mean, you got to go through their next 2 games alone. It's tough. It's very tough. It's very tough. Their last 4 remaining right now are all top 25 teams. Oklahoma, they got Tennessee that just blew the doors off Kentucky, scored of 50 points. But that defense, I think that Mateer can absolutely attack Tennessee's defense in certain ways. I do think that he can cause some problems for Tennessee's off defense. So if Oklahoma's defense comes to play and they get the Aguilar, they definitely got a chance to beat Tennessee next week. Definitely got a chance next game. But then they got Alabama. Alabama's playing phenomenal ball right now. Phenomenal ball. And it's good, and that's tough, right? And then they got Missouri at home, and then they finish off with LSU at home. You can't compare that schedule to anybody in the country. Like, you just can't. Like, that's tough. That's tough. That is a tough out. That is a very tough out. I mean, and they need one of these wins. They definitely need one of these wins because they haven't beaten a top 25. They beat 2 that were ranked. I think Auburn was ranked at the time, and I think Michigan is ranked. So beating Auburn and Michigan helps them, but they need one of these wins. They need 3 of the next 4, in my opinion. And then I still think that is very. And then you got to start questioning the committee's choice. If they get 3 of these next 4, you got to start. What is going on with Oklahoma and because Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri can argue are all good SEC football teams, right? They're not bad at all. Alabama, you would even go back and forth with anybody right now today between Texas A&M and Alabama being the top teams, or Georgia fan of the SEC right now as is. But they most definitely need a couple. They need 3 of these next 4, and then I think it gets tough from there. But the committee, like, I just don't understand why. It's tough, man. It's gonna be tough because I really wanted to see them in a playoff atmosphere, because I just, you start looking at some of these teams like Oklahoma. Can you see Oklahoma team ready? But I think next week for them, it's not over. But next week for them, it starts. Playoffs start for them next week, so we do get to see them in playoff mode. It starts next week for a lot of SEC teams, for a lot of teams in the country. So can't wait till next week and see what happens. But yeah, there was a tough loss against Ole Miss, man. Very tough loss against them, man. Shout out to both of those teams, man. I think they played a phenomenal football game, man, for real. And Ole Miss, definitely always had my respect, but they most definitely got it now. Most definitely, without a doubt, right? Um, moving on to UCLA and Indiana. Indiana just made UCLA look like what UCLA is. I mean, look, look, UCLA isn't that bad. They're not getting 6 points beaten by 50. They got belt, 56-56. Look, and that Indiana defense is just different, y'all. It's different. It's a different football team. It's not the same team. It's Indiana is a team led by some really good coaching. Really, really, really good coaching over there, man, at Indiana. And UCLA, I think, went on a hot streak. Now, mind you, they're 3-5. They're 3-2 in the Big Ten. It's their season, yeah, it's over, but they gotta go to a good bowl, right? Don't you know what I'm saying? We'll kind of look at their rest of their schedule, but they got Nico to turn the ball over twice. He kind of reverted and went back to bad Nico, right? That's just what it is. Like he just did. They held him to roughly, I want to say, what was it, 203 yards in the game. I think that's what they had, 200 yards. Is it safe to say that they had 200 total yards in the game? That's where Indiana kept them at. Um, they really, really played them really tough, and they never had a chance. Fernando Mendoza threw a pick in his game that was just kind of like at that point where he threw that interception. To be honest, he still threw it, still goes on the stat sheet. But the point in the game where he threw that interception was like, why are they even throwing the ball? Why? You know what I mean? But that's just the way Coach Cincinnati coaches, and you can't really question that. But definitely showed that he can move around, dual threat quarterback. I was surprised by his athleticism. I really was, because I think he's a good pocket passing quarterback. That just made them let me look at Indiana and say that they are a really, really dangerous team. Um, they play really good. EJ Williams stepped up tremendously in this game. Another emerging Indiana receiver that just kind of came out of the blue for me. I mean, he was popping up in some games, but it's like, oh, they got another weapon now besides Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper. Like, okay, they got some guys over there. He really has a good team over there. And they only got to the quarterback a couple of times, and they made plays behind the line. But Indiana is really rolling. They are really rolling, and the fighting Curse Ignetis is doing their thing. They are going to be a problem moving forward. They are going to be a problem moving forward. They really put something on them so bad. Have not lost yet, and I don't think that Indiana loses another game. I don't think that Indiana loses another game, yo. I'm going to go on record and say that. Penn State, I think, is the to me, I'll be honest, regardless of where Penn State is right now, on a lot of people's schedule. Look, Penn State they still got that talent they have up at Penn State, right? And they're gonna and that's game is at Penn State. So it's saying Happy Valley, Indiana. I don't know if even if they lose one of these last four, you can't keep them out of the college the Big Ten championship game. You can't do that. And then I don't think that you can absolutely take them out of the college football playoff at this point. I think they punched their ticket. It's going to be one game out of time, because I think Maryland is true freshman quarterback, really good. I think I really like the way he plays. They got some work to do with Mike Locksley's team up at Maryland, but that's their next game. And then after that, they got Penn State. Then they got Wisconsin at home, and then they go to Purdue. So 3 of their last 4 is on the road for Indiana, which makes it even tougher and more respectable, I guess. But they got through the bulk. They got through the tough of their schedule already. They got through the tough of their schedule already. I think, I mean, this year we would think that Penn State would have been a very, at this, we didn't expect Penn State to had a drop off that they did. So, let's be honest, they would have played a ranked team in Illinois, a ranked team in Iowa. We expected Iowa to be ranked. Ranked team in Oregon, and then a ranked team in Penn State, right? So in those games there, you would have thought that you say, okay, those are four valid games for Indiana. If they can come out at least 2-2 in those games, I think they still had a chance then. But look, they're in those games, they're 3-0 right now. And in those games, they just got Penn State left. They beat Oregon, they beat Iowa, they beat Illinois, they beat Michigan State. They beat, they've shown that they're a good football team. So, well, a very good football team. And I think they're real close and they can taste it. That's good. On the other hand, when you look at now, when we look at if we was to look at UCLA's remaining schedule and what do they got a chance to try kind of finishing off their season pretty strong? I don't know, because I think that they dropped these last four, to be honest. The last five on their schedule, I think it's tough. I think they are capped out where they're at right now. Would I be surprised? I would be. I do think that they can. Nebraska, I don't know which Nebraska team you're gonna get. I don't know. I don't know which Nebraska team you're gonna get. UCLA. You know, being at home, Nebraska. Going to UCLA, but I don't know what Nebraska team you're gonna get, right. And they got to be at home, and then they're going to Ohio State. I don't think that they're going to beat Ohio State. No, I don't think they could beat Washington, and I don't think that they could beat SC. So, um, they finish off with SC, but we'll see what happens. See what happens in those games. I think they can hang with all of those teams if they play as good as they all have. Besides Ohio State, but they can hang. But we'll see. We'll see how hungry they are if the season's just over. Had they quit? See what happens. It's interesting to see, but Indiana is on another level that cannot be explained right now. You cannot explain? I can't. I've talked about it week after week. That team is on fire right now. It is, and I think they got some good sparring opponents coming up. To keep going. Um, Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech beating Syracuse. We all knew that that was gonna happen. 41-16. Tough. It's been tough for Fran Brown's team since their quarterback went down earlier this season, out for the season. But they were spreading the ball around really well. But Georgia Tech is really going for the gusto here. They really are. Georgia Tech is, and Hayes King is probably looking at as being a Heisman front runner right now, man. He's definitely on the ballot without a doubt. 25 for 31 in this game, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, had 12 carries, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's winning. And he's winning. And you can't do nothing. Like when he got 8 games right now, and they're 8-0. I think you can possibly even say what he's done up to this point, being a game changer that he is. I think him and Diego Piava, I think they're going back and forth right now between Hayes King and Diego Piava. I think those two make it real tough to choose between and see, which one of those guys are actually going to win the Heisman. But Georgia Tech is absolutely playing phenomenal football as a team right now. And their remaining 4 games they got, I'll give it to y'all right now. They got NC State. I think they can beat NC State. But they're going to North Carolina to play NC State, the Wolfpack. Then they play the Boston College Eagles and Boston College, but then they have Pittsburgh at home. That'll be a tough game. Their last 2, Pittsburgh at home, and then they got Georgia at home. Those last two games, they will be tested. I just don't know what Pittsburgh team is going to show up against them. I mean, we'll talk about that more when that once that comes and once that gets there to that point. But Georgia being well, we'll see what happens. That was a shootout last year, the instant classic game. There was like 7 overtimes or something like that. But they're playing phenomenal football, and I just don't see how you slow this team down. It's going to be very hard to slow down this Georgia Tech team. They're rolling. They Brent Key's team is they're on fire, man. They just are. Congratulations to him, man. Congratulations, man. Got to the quarterback a couple of times. They just came through when they needed to come through. They made stops when they needed to make stops in this game, and I think that was what you wanted to see out of this team, man. You know what I'm saying? I've seen some things in this game, to be honest, that when I seen it, I said, okay, I like what I'm seeing out of this team. I really do. I really do. I really like what I'm seeing out of this team because if you think about it, like I think Syracuse they tried to play keep away in this game and they almost did it pretty good in this game. Almost. You know what I'm saying? And like I mean, when I talk about keep away, I'm talking about time possession. Don't know exactly where it was at, but just from watching the game, but from the eye test, it seemed like it was almost even. You know what I mean? And I think, but Georgia Tech did a good job. They did. And and even though the score wasn't close, I think I seen a team win. You know what I'm saying? I seen a team come together and a team win and play well at home and showed me a different level of Georgia Tech, to be honest. Me, myself personally, I seen something in that team and I said, okay, if they could come together, regroup and get it on like this and come together, regroup and then come out with a performance like this against Syracuse, even though it was against Syracuse, however you want to put that, I think I still got to give their props and when props is due, man. I do. I like it. And I'm sure a lot of y'all can agree out there with me about Georgia Tech. Um, Alabama, I didn't think that Alabama was going to struggle with South Carolina like this. A lot of people kept saying that it's a setup game, that it would have been a setup game and that it has been. A lot of people throughout the week talked about it as being a setup game, but I just didn't think that it would be. And I must be honest about it. I didn't expect Alabama to beat them bad at, but a win is a win, right? A win is a win. We know that their leading pass rusher being healthy was probably going to cause some problems for Caden Proctor, and I think he did, right? And they did. He caused some problems for Proctor, and they tried their best to get there, but it's like it was some third downs they just couldn't get off the field. You know what I mean? You got to go off the field, but they were 2 for 3 on a fourth down conversion efficiencies in a game, and you gotta convert, gotta keep the chains moving, can't play behind the chains, and then they. But when they score quicker. And South Carolina, I think they were getting. I can't remember, but it was if they exactly had the ball longer than them, all I gotta do is check it. But it seemed like that Carolina was trying to, doing that a lot quicker. But because when Alabama, when they went on their drives, when they put it together, they went on their drives and they put it together and they scored, right? Ty Simpson had another good game, I think, 24 for 43. And I said good. I didn't say great. It was good because I think there was some things that he would like to get back in that game. Of course, it's always like that, right? Um, and we seen in this game, and like I was been telling a lot of people that, and I've been saying this, that these college quarterbacks, once you throw different things at them, you show six, drop, show a blitz of six, showing six down on the line, drop three, rush four with a little twist, a little stunt in there. Um, Confuses the offensive line first of all, making it easier to get to the quarterback, but then also it changes the coverage up for the quarterback, and it seems to play with some of these guys' heads. It just does. Um, Lenore Sellers played good in this game. I think his stats was good in this game. I don't think that he was phenomenal in this game at all, but he played better. To me, I think this was a better game against Alabama, but I still think he needs to come back into college football for another year. But who am I? You know what I mean? Who am I? But just a guy that just watches the games over and over. Don't think that it's ready for the NFL. In my opinion, the size is there, the speed is there, and that can take you a long way. But developing yourself, because they're not going to develop guys in the NFL. They're just not. They're not going to develop guys there. I kind of talked about this last week, and I don't really want to repeat myself. But if I got to over and over and over to make sure that the world hears me loud and clear, that they're not going to do that in the NFL. And I think that it's college coaches' times, and I've seen it a lot throughout the games. I don't know, and like, just like I said, if I notice it, a guy who has a high respect for the college football game and notices that quarterbacks struggle with that, then I'm pretty sure that college coaches in the game of Division I college football are noticing that quarterbacks are struggling, recognizing post snap reads, and they're going to play with their heads and mix up some twist stunts from the defensive line, and play with some coverages. Make cover two look like cover one, and then drop into cover two. Show cover one. Get into cover two. Show cover two. Get into a quarters coverage. You know what I mean? Like, and just playing with the quarterback's head to the point where they're thrown right into the throwing lanes. They're not seeing these. They're not seeing certain things, and um, you're and they're, because they're already in throwing with anticipation, because a lot of these offenses are built to get the receivers open and not really, going through their reads and progression. So, and I think it's been exposed. And it has been exposed, and it's probably a long time before me saying something, but I think it's just becoming more evident, because now the quarterback play as has went down and it's trickled up to the NFL level, to where some guys still don't know what they're doing and still developing. And of course, you can always get better and get better, but I just, I just think it's best sometimes to just stay put. I think that both the defenses played pretty well when it came to both teams. Both teams played pretty well. They both got to the quarterback the same amount of time. I think both teams had 2 sacks in this game. They both played well behind, from had some TFLs behind the line in the South Carolina Alabama game. I just didn't think South Carolina should be a lot better than what they are right now. It's kind of unfair to Shane Beamer, but it clearly says that his quarterback isn't ready. I think, and it's just not him at the quarterback, because it's a team effort, right? It's just not the quarterback; it's a team effort. But look, the defense held Alabama to rush, and they held Jam down. Like, Jam couldn't get going in this game, so they tried to, mix it up with some jet sweep motions. They couldn't get it going. They just couldn't, and I think, but I must say this, and I will say this: that was not a um great game from Alabama. That wasn't Alabama at its best, and they still were able to win by 7. So I gotta give them their props on that, because it just wasn't the best Alabama team. It wasn't. It just wasn't. It just wasn't the best Alabama team at all. Um, but it was a good game, though. Good game. Another one. They survived it. And it's going to be like that from here on out. So, Alabama's remaining schedule, and I'll get into that real quick before we move on. LSU at home, Oklahoma at home, of course. Then Eastern Illinois at home, and then they finish off at Auburn. Yeah, that's what it's looking like for Alabama, for sure. I don't think that only one of those games, Eastern Illinois, is that's it. Some people say, "Oh, the cupcakes." Well, they played Georgia, they played Vanderbilt, they played Missouri, they played Tennessee. Those teams right then and there is enough to say that Alabama deserves to play another team. So whatever, but they'll talk about that another time. A lot of people still don't get why the SEC gets to play those teams like that. And I do, and I'm not. SEC bias, I must say. But moving on to the Illinois and Washington game, I thought that Illinois was going to bring it to Washington. I didn't expect Illinois to um look like this versus Washington. I just didn't. I think I can't remember what I said in this game and who I actually took when I know for sure though that I was like Illinois was in the game. Illinois uh, the points and or something like that. I said I can't remember who I took in the game. I can't. And but Washington, maybe because it was like Washington being at home or something like that, I might have said that. But I'm not even going to lie and say I remember exactly who I took in the game. But I will say this: Illinois, Brent Bellama's team, uh, they just got dominated. They got dominated. They did. Season is the season over for Illinois? No, it's not, man. Illinois can still play out and just play the schedule out, finish out strong. And, they got Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. Those are Illinois' teams. I mean, when I don't think that this Washington loss is they maybe losing the way that they're losing, getting beat by Washington 42-25 and then losing to Indiana 63-10, but they did beat USC. They lost to Ohio State by a couple scores, played them pretty well. If you win out, you'll get you a nice bowl game and possibly even, you know what I mean? Maybe be able to sneak your way in. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. You know what I'm saying? How the cookie crumble, you never know what happens. Just play out, win out, and finish strong. I think losing 3 in the Big Ten at this point, it probably would take them out of being in the college football playoff, which sucks. But hey, it is what it is. Finish off strong, Illinois, and I thought Altmaier was going to play a good game. Washington's defense, they just got after him. They caused some problems, and I was shocked to see, even though right there was like no sacks. This doesn't mean like just because you didn't get a sack didn't mean that they didn't cause problems, that they didn't give them looks, that these looks, and they made it tough for him out there. Obviously, that's why he threw the interceptions, right? Because they didn't know what he was looking at, throwing the ball wise, and it was like, wow, how don't you know what I mean? And I just didn't expect that from a Brent Bielema team. I just didn't. I thought Luke Altmaier was getting a lot better. Um, I didn't think that he was one of those quarterbacks that was going to struggle from that, but obviously I should have known a little bit better. I should have known that because of the way that, he looked against Ohio State, right? Um, but I thought he did okay in that one, and there's going to be problems like that, battle tested, but this was a tough team, and Damon Williams is absolutely a problem. They started losing contain on him, like where is you cannot lose containment on him. You got to play him. You got to keep a spy on a guy like that. You got to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like you have to come up. Like there has to be somebody spying this guy at all times. There has to be. If you got a rush 3, get a fast defensive lineman out there, rush 3 guys. You know what I mean, and have one of them spying him. Like so, you're not losing a cover, something like you got to keep somebody on him. And they just weren't able to do it. And he was doing what he wanted to do. It just looked like he did exactly what he wanted to do to Illinois. I'm just like, I mean, when you watch the game, that's what it looked like. I mean, the stats you say that don't tell it all. I mean, it was 26 for 33 in the game, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. Didn't throw a pick. Denzel Boston even threw a touchdown in the game, which is even crazy. And then, I mean, Damon Williams Jr. still, and he had 10 carries in the game for 66 yards. He was getting busy on them. He opened up a lot for that team, and it was getting busy. Denzel Boston opened up on them. Then they have no answer. Illinois defense just didn't have an answer. I mean, they tried to answer. They tried to offensively to do what they could do, but the defense just couldn't get stops. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get it. And then they did a phenomenal job. But I think they did good with the running game from Illinois. When you got Big Caden Finger and Khalil Valentine at 1-2 punch, they couldn't get going. And when you playing from behind too, I think it's still got to try to stick to your game plan. And I think they started trying to let that get away from them when they tried to, play fastball early on, trying to get in the end zone fast. Like you should have, you had control of the tempo, and I think they kind of let that get away from them a little bit. Um, but I thought it was a good game, despite the score. It started getting out of hand, but I thought it was good at first. You know what I'm saying? Coming in, the way that they were playing, and I think they kind of got away from the style because they just couldn't get it, man. Couldn't get them. Couldn't not. And boy, oh boy, boy, oh boy. Another one, another one, another one. Moving on to the next game. BYU and Iowa State. Iowa State absolutely let this game get away from them. At BYU, I look each week and every week. I thought that I didn't. Did I don't think I took Iowa State to beat them, but I said if anybody could do it in the Big, I think it said something like if anybody could in the Big 12 do it, this Iowa State could, because it's like style makes fights, right? The style of the team of Iowa State was going to cause problems with BYU, right? And the style makes fights, but BYU has absolutely shown that. They shut me up twice already this year, and they showed me their speed. Then they showed toughness. They showed me their speed right against Utah, but then they've been throwing hints and with their toughness as an overall team. Period. Like, how didn't I get it? They got a quarterback who wear number 47. They got a fullback playing quarterback. Like, how could I miss that? Got a Bear Bachmeyer. It sounds like a finishing move on like Mortal Kombat or like a video game that you fight in Bear Bachmeyer. You know what I'm saying? Bear Bachmeyer. You know what I mean? It's just like it do. Um, which is crazy, but anyhow, phenomenal, dude. Like true freshman quarterback for Kalani Sitake and that staff to have him ready. It just goes to show of how well coached and the culture that's over there at BYU. Great job, BYU, man. I got to give it up to him, man. Give him props and props is due. Get your body armor. Yeah, get your body armors, man. Always. But phenomenal job, man, from that team. They played a phenomenal job. Um, he was 22 for 35 in the game. He had 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Um, and he also had 12 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown. True freshman quarterback. Great. I mean, they have him ready, and I think that says a lot about that staff. Rocco Beck was 24 for 36, 311 yards, 1 touchdown through 3 picks. 3 picks in the game. Can't beat a team like that, bro. Can't beat a team like that. You just can't. I thought they did well running the ball against BYU. I think their toughness was absolutely there. I think they did a great job running against BYU. I really do, because not just it would tell you statistically that they did good running the ball against them, but if you was watching the game anyhow, it was like, yeah, they're doing a good job. I thought number 26 did a little bit better than 24 in the game. And I mean, statistically, you probably did better anyway. But I'm talking about even watching the game, it was like, okay, he got something going that Sama don't, but they complement each other well. They did. They complemented each other well in the game, and I just didn't see what I'm like. What's the problem? But they just killed them. They had no answer. They had no answer for the speed of Parker Kingston, number 11 for BYU. They had no answer for him. And Chase Roberts stepped up in this game. They had no answer for him. I mean, like, he didn't have touchdowns, but he was definitely an impact player. Number 2 was definitely an impact player, and that was without LJ Martin. I mean, LJ Martin was bad. I think he was banged up. LJ Martin has not been at 100. I mean, he still got in, but he's not even 100%. I don't think LJ Martin is 100%, which is crazy. And and they did that with him not being 100% banged up and everything. And I'm pretty sure a lot of college football players are banged up or bruised up at this point in the season, but they just couldn't get after it. But BYU got to Rocco Beck. They caused problems, and not to say that Rocco Beck is not, a good quarterback, because I still think that he's a good quarterback, and I still think that Iowa State got some great things going on over there. I do think that, that's a good program, and they're still a good football team. I just thought that the style that they play would have caused BYU some problems, and it did early on, and they kind of and they just let it get away from them. They did. BYU just fought back. They showed the resilience. They kept their head down, and they fought back, and they made them turn the ball over. Some poor decisions that Rocco Beck had made. But man, BYU is for real. They are for real. And speaking of for real teams, the Big 12, like BYU and Cincinnati have absolutely. Well, I'm not shocked. I'm not so much shocked about BYU. I didn't think they would do as good as they're doing right now with not having Jake Retzlaff that's down at Tulane, but Cincinnati doing what they're doing right now, just quiet as kept, are really playing good football, and they do play BYU. Um, they got a tough stretch. They have a tough stretch. Texas Tech, they got Texas Tech next. Um, I don't want to count them out that game. That's just going to be a real good game, and I don't want to count BYU out of that game. But Texas Tech absolutely needs this game. They definitely need this game after dropping to Arizona State. They absolutely need it. But and it's going to sound crazy, but how do if it's, let's pose a scenario real quick. This is a scenario. If BYU loses to Texas Tech, if Texas Tech was to beat BYU and then beat TCU, but then lose to Cincinnati, or Cincinnati loses a game later on, how do you justify not putting in the Big 12 champion, which will probably be out of 3 teams, right? Or 4, which would probably be Texas Tech, Cincinnati, BYU, or Utah. How do you not put 2 of those Big 12 teams in over sending in somebody from the G5? I'm just saying, like, I think, and that's me being a football fan, being a fan of college football. Like, I think that they would deserve to be in the college football playoff over the highest ranking group of 5 champion. I honestly do, because I don't think that you're going to have the highest ranking group of 5 champion. And in that case, I think that you can look at either the ACC or the Big 12 for 2 teams to get in, or maybe even letting both of those guys get 2 teams in, letting 2 in from the ACC. I mean, the ACC is probably going to get 2 in anyway, but definitely considering letting 2 in from the Big 12. Because I think they got some good teams. Those 4 teams I named, they're probably going to play each other at some point later on this year. And I think they all deserve, but I think they're all good teams. And I think that those teams are good, and they can pose some problems for other teams. And I think they will give us some good football against other teams. That's all I'm saying. So now will they win? I don't know. I wouldn't probably say that, but the good football, yes. That's what we want to see, is good football, right? All right. Moving on, right? But shout out to BYU, man. They're rolling. They're rolling. Shout out to the Big 12, right? Vanderbilt. I know Vanderbilt being able to get past Missouri the way that they did. I told y'all Diego Piava is a problem. He is a problem, and he's definitely, without a doubt, that team's heart and soul. He is the game changer. Like I said, he is a game changer quarterback, and I'm not going to change that up for nothing. He just is. And the stats ain't pretty all the time. Like I said, like and see, he just plays so unselfish. Like the stats wasn't going to be pretty this game. He knew that, and still came out and played. Still came out and played the game. Look, he was, didn't throw it all over the yard. Didn't have a phenomenal game like that. And Missouri did a good job. They came out with a great game plan. You know, Ma Hardy, he ran hard in this game. And he played better in this game out there. So thought that, and they tried to go to him as much as they could in this game, but I think he should have probably, because they stopped them at some time. Sometimes they stopped them, sometimes they didn't. And it was just back and forth, right? Low scoring, defense, lockdown, let's get after it. They didn't throw Vanderbilt didn't throw it much. They was like, this is gonna be one of those 3 yards in the cloud of dust type of games. No, it wasn't exciting for the scoreboard to see, but it definitely was exciting to see defensively what they put together, these game plans, and both teams just fought and fought to the end. And Vanderbilt came out on top. They survived Missouri. They did. But Missouri definitely came to play. And I want to say that I think that Missouri has played. It's crazy to say this, but I would. They didn't beat. Okay, obviously Alabama beat Vanderbilt, right? So they played them, really good. But I think Missouri showed a lot of weaknesses with this Vanderbilt team. Now I know Vanderbilt got past them, and they're gonna have to watch out moving forward because they caused some problems for Diego Piava in that offense. Now, it might have just been the two teams and, just the personnel of Missouri that may caused it, that brought up some of those things in the game when you watching the game and, the pressures that they got there because they didn't get to them much, but they were able to hold them for not even passing a lot to the point where they was like, let's run the ball. Let's try to run the ball. And rely on this defense. Let's rely on this defense. That's just what it came down to, right? You know, that's just what it came down to. So we'll see what happens with Van because they got it on. But that was a good one. Shout out to those teams, man. They played great game, man. Baylor and Cincinnati. I told you I was going to talk about this Cincinnati game. Cincinnati is just nobody's really. I mean, at this point, you got to talk about them because they're one of the best teams in the Big 12. Like you can't overlook Cincinnati any longer and say, well, because they got a shot to go to the college football playoff. And I just got finished talking about my little scenario with them because they're 5-0 in the Big 12, and they just handled Baylor like Baylor was not. They shouldn't even have been on the same field as them, and it wasn't a great. And once again, it just it just wasn't one of those games. It was a game that it was let's run the ball. They are running the ball like these good football teams are playing great defense and able to run the ball. And Cincinnati did that. But I think what makes them a little different and more dangerous a little bit in the Big 12, Cincinnati, is because they also can throw and they got good receivers. Like and I thought that they would show up in this Baylor game. I didn't expect Cincinnati to win felt so physical versus this David Randa Baylor led team. I didn't think they would win it. I thought it was going to be a little bit more finesse style type of game against Baylor with Cincinnati, but no, they came out. They was like, we going to run. They established the run game. Brendan Sorsby got busy in this game. Towie Rocker, he ran good in this game. Evan Pryor got in there, got a touchdown. Like they was going at it, and I was like, wow. Wow, and then they just said, "Look, y'all not going to do too much." But hold up, Michael Turner from Baylor was getting. He got active. He was getting it there. It was like that defense let up a little bit of passing yards, but how many total yards in this game? I think they might have gave up what 260, almost 300, like two almost 300 total yards for Baylor in this game. Um, and then Cincinnati's defense, they got to the quarterback and beat Baylor couldn't. Baylor couldn't. So which makes me look at those trenches, and then the trenches, the offensive line for Cincinnati, obviously, if they get the leaning on you, it's gonna be a problem. And they showed that. They've shown that. Not just this Baylor week, but they've been active and they've been getting at it. Now they're 5-0 in the Big 12, and now they got some opponents coming up now. Like I said, I think they got I just talked about it too. And that's what I'm saying. Like I would, before I see a group of five champion group, highest ranking group of five team get in, I would honestly rather see two Big 12 teams get in. That's just me personally, because they are playing really good football. They got Cincinnati got Utah next at Utah. Utah definitely needs that win. But then they got Arizona and BYU, and they finish off at TC. Um, yeah, most definitely. I think I would rather see that. But man, Cincinnati is rolling, and they quiet. They quiet doing it. The nation is not giving Cincinnati their just due. They're not talking about Cincinnati being a great team. I don't know why, but it's crazy. But hey, it's not me. I'm gonna talk about it all because I just love college football, right? Oklahoma State, Texas Tech is they ran through Oklahoma State. Look, we knew that was gonna happen, right? Oklahoma State, they got to get a good coach down there. Hit the reset button. Go back through culture, man. Culture wise, and then just start over, man. Just start over, right? It kind of they got off to Texas Tech got out to kind of a slow start. Um, Two different quarterbacks in the game, but they did what they had to do in the game, right? Couldn't really run too much on them, but passing wise, two different quarterbacks. Defensively, just dominated this game. Just put on a clinic, man. They just put on a clinic versus Oklahoma State. Not really too much I can say about it. I thought Texas Tech losing to Arizona State was bad, and it looked bad. But I didn't think nobody could beat Texas Tech in the Big 12. I just thought they're just too good of a team. But obviously they need Brennan Morton at QB, to hold them down, and he is the veteran guy and a veteran leader to actually, catapult them above everybody else. But I still think that they're the class of and I can't really say that now. I mean, BYU obviously is, but I was surprised to see them lose to Arizona State. I really was. And then Arizona State, the drop one, like to me, was like, wow. Now it even looks kind of worse now for Texas Tech and that Arizona State loss. But moving on. Texas going to overtime. Yeah, Texas going to overtime against Mississippi State. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, 45-38 in overtime. I didn't really didn't expect it. Did y'all expect it? Mississippi State has been playing good football, man. They have been. Mississippi State has been playing good and great football. I'm not gonna lie. They've been playing teams really tough. And look, they're 4-4 overall, and they're 0-4 in the SEC. Does not mean that they have not been playing good football. They just not have been getting good results. Right. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but it is that's the honest truth. They just have not been getting good results. But that team is tough. And I gotta look into the team more and actually see, how many guys that they possibly can have come back. because if they can retain a lot of the talent and then building on that culture there, I think that they got something there. I think they're building on something great there at Mississippi State. I think they trying to come back because to play Texas the way that they played Texas, they made Texas earn it. Blake Shapen, 26 for 42 in the game, 381 yards, 4 touchdowns. He made them earn it. Made him earn it. You know, Arch Manning was 29 46, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Made him earn every last bit. He had Texas earn every last bit. And yeah, I know the stats say that, Manning threw for over 300 yards. I mean, so if you're going to throw for over 300 in the game and they kind of put the game on him, then I guess you got to kind of say, okay, well, but he got hurt. And then Cadwell came in and threw the touchdown, right? That sealed the deal. But I mean, when you throw for over 300, look, you got to get his props. You got to get props when props is due, right? Do for over 300 in the game, a very tough game, but also though, like Blake Shapen, though, man, like kid, he played ball, man, play good ball, bro. He just does, and the defense wise, like. I was surprised to see, Mississippi State being able to cause so many problems and do what they did. I didn't think that. Um, I just didn't know that they were that good defensively. Right? I don't think I paid attention to it that much. Like maybe I was just overlooking it. How sometimes you sit there and you see the teams he really don't, and it's like, okay, are they really that good defensively? Or are they just letting the teams? And now must say, like they are. They're built. They have something there. They have something there, and I hope that they can retain some of this talent because I just like to see teams get better and teams do good. Because with all due respect, Texas has to win out. So, to even have a chance. So to me, for Texas to get this win in no fashion, in any fashion, they got to get the win. A win is a win, period, point blank. They got a W. And during the SEC, and they are fighting and clawing. So big respect to Texas, first of all. Big respect to Texas for getting a dub. Like you got, because they got to win out. They have to win out. They can't afford to drop no more games. They got to go out every week and they got to play ball. And Niblett is a lifesaver for them. He just says like was Ryan Niblett number 21 for them. He's just a lifesaver for them. But they are just playing good as a team, man. Just overall team football, man. And you can't ask for too much out of that team. They got to the quarterback 7 times. They got tackles for loss. The defense did everything that they possibly can do. It was a lot of 3-and-outs in the game. That's why I said the stats don't tell a lot of in the game. It was a lot of decision making that was questioned in this game, like what's going on. And the main thing really was that Texas run game was a problem, and it really was. It was a problem. They couldn't get nobody going, and Devon Booth, he just they had no. It seems like Texas defense had no answer for him. He ran the ball, and they had no answer for him. He was killing them. Devon Booth was absolutely killing Texas. He was, and it was number 6. Yeah, that's it was killing them. And then they really couldn't get going, man. Baxter or Wisner, just they really couldn't get going, and that kind of hurts that team like that when you can't run the ball well like that. They got to be able to run that rock and dust don't get so one dimensional because they were very one dimensional versus this team and almost got it, but they got the W, and that's all that matters. Good overtime win. That's all I care. You know what I'm saying? What could we say? Dub is a dub, and at this point, their back is against the wall. They already been in the corner since they dropped those 2 games, knowing that you got to win out in the SEC, and they find the ways to get it done. Oregon playing Wisconsin, that was crazy, right? Yeah, that was even the Oregon won. They won the game. Oregon absolutely won the game. You can't take that away from Oregon. But in this game, it was like, when is Oregon going to score? I don't think they scored to the second quarter. Now, was it a nasty game? Absolutely. It was a nasty, rainy game in Oregon, but it still doesn't have, like, what are you're playing a team that's on for 1-6, or I mean 2-6, 2-5, 1-4, 0-4 in the conference. They can't play on nowhere near that have the talent of you, and they held you scoreless. They held you scoreless, like in the first already. Like, that can't happen, Oregon. That cannot happen. But Oregon did show the toughness, and I mean, running the ball, they did. They just did. You got two backs that go for 100 yards. Like, that's great. That shows that y'all can run the ball. That shows that offensive line strength, and maybe they need to lean into that a little bit more. But I mean, in this game, they had to run the ball. It was really nasty out there. It was really wet. I think the defense did what they their job. Of course they did. Um, because I mean, simply under 200 yards total offense. I mean, look, Oregon had 200 yards rushing, so and that's all they had total. Dante Moore got hurt, so they had to bring in young Brock Thomas in the game. He got hurt, and but they just, I just said it wasn't pretty, but it's a win, right? It's a 14-point win. It wasn't pretty. I'm not about to get now. I was shocked that Wisconsin was able to beat up on that offensive line. They were in the passing game. They were getting sacked. That Oregon was getting sacked the way they was, and I think that's some problems. Like, can y'all not pass block? Can Oregon not pass block? Because they got after Wisconsin showed some things, and you might start questioning them. I think I just want to chalk it up to saying that Oregon is still a great football team. That it was just one of those days, I guess. I think that's what I want to say, because I want to stay, don't want to get on Oregon, but we will for sure see where Oregon is really at, because they still got to play Iowa, Minnesota, SC, and Washington. So we'll still see where Iowa's at, because next week they got Iowa, and Iowa's going to test them in every way, and they're definitely going to get after them. They can't play the way they just played against Wisconsin and think they're going to get past Iowa like that. But it's definitely not going to happen. They can't sleepwalk through that game. So they best to get it together. And then their defensive line they really couldn't get to Wisconsin. I mean, they couldn't. They did defense. They did defense decent against the pass, but they were still able. Number 10, he ran okay on Oregon, but I don't really think Wisconsin was supposed to be as bad as they are. I just think I don't think the ball bounced their way. But I was surprised to see Oregon only win by 14. To be honest, I was. Anybody else out there, let me know, because definitely was surprised. They can't continue to play like that, but I'll just chalk it up to say it was one of those days. That's what I'm saying. It was. All right. Anyhow, next game. Stanford and Miami. That was another game that started off real slow. It just was real sluggish and slow at first. With Miami, being not coming out and putting up points right away, and they got going in the second half, and then they just start pulling away and beating up on Stanford. I thought that they would be. We all was like, Miami's gonna beat Stanford, right? But why are they getting out to such a slow start against Stanford? Like, there's no way Stanford's about to beat Miami, right? And then Miami coming off that loss, and you just like, there's no way that they about to beat them, right? Like, that can't happen. Not from what we just seen. Like, nah, no way. And they pulled it together, and they said, look, and just got a W. They came together and got a dub. Like, that is what it is. Like, that's it. Yeah, I mean, they really didn't do too much phenomenal things in this game. I mean, statistically wise, but they put a game together and they won. I mean, because look, yeah, two what he had? They had a pick. They had two picks in this game, right? They both had two picks. They didn't score off either of them. They only had two sacks. They had a couple of stops behind the line. Miami did. Um, Bang was at what did Bang do? Bang absolutely was like didn't show up too much in this game. They had a good game plan against him. Stanford did kind of, and they can't get off to those little starts like I hope. It seems I don't want to say that Miami is not a top team because personally I think they should be higher than I think they're a number five, but that's when they're playing at their best. Miami has to stay focused. Miami cannot afford to lose focus at this point in the season. The talent is there to be a national champion. They got the talent to be a national champion. They absolutely do, and a couple of teams in the ACC do. And I think Pitt also is one of those sneaky good teams that got that talent, right? But you know you really have to focus and lock in Miami. Miami, you got to focus and lock in. Got SMU, Syracuse, NC State, Virginia Tech, and you finish off with Pittsburgh. You cannot play that, give, undisciplined with the offense of Pittsburgh and SMU. SMU didn't have a good showing against Wake Forest. They didn't, but it's a good offense, and Pittsburgh has a good offense, and that our true freshman quarterback is just there. Miami has to stay focused. They cannot afford to lose focus now. Um, I don't know what was going on in that Stanford game, but it kind of gave me a little scared, like, what's up? But then they started getting it together and pulling away and doing what they do. They got to come out like that. And but I do want to say good half of a good half of a half game plan for Oregon, but wait to adjust by Miami. Um, I think we want to talk about the way that Miami was able to adjust and to see what they was doing wrong and to fix it. I think that's a plus for a Hurricanes fan to look at and say, look, we were able to go out there and adjust to what we were doing wrong, get it fixed right away, and make it work. Right. That's what it is. I think that's good. Texas A&M, man, playing LSU. That was another. You look at the final score, the total score, and the stats. You'll get kind of lost up into that game. But that was a game that was kind of LSU started letting it get away from them. You know what I mean? Texas A&M though they are to me until somebody prove them otherwise the top of the SEC, the class of it. Marcel Reed is absolutely good. He was 12 for 21 in this game, had 202 yards, had two touchdowns and two picks. I still think he's still the man because he had 13 carries for 108 yards and two touchdowns. Um, so it's not like LSU didn't have chances to get it together. I don't know what's going on with Garrett Nussmeier. He was 22 for 35, had 168 yards, had a touchdown in this game. Actually, I do know what's going on with Garrett Nussmeier. I do. I do. It's the same thing I've been telling y'all about quarterbacks, about these college quarterbacks for the past couple of weeks. Um, when, but I mean, when you get sacked 7 times, that could be a problem, right? You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. They was getting after the quarterback, but then they was also giving them different looks. They was getting after him, giving them different looks. Um, and I don't know if he don't. I can't say if he has the right receiver help of the past that he's had in the past, but there's always receivers that's going to step up. LSU been known to have some good receivers, so there's some guys around there, but those different looks, and I think he's struggling with a lot of those things. Don't think he's playing the same brand of ball that he was playing last year for some reason. Something's changed, but anyway, Texas A&M just came. They were able to get to him, stop everything that they were doing, getting after those backs. Um, Those running backs really couldn't get anything going, only in short yardage situations. But Texas A&M defense is they're just like that, man. That defense is like that, and I think what was it last? It was I think it was like last week where they got the most points scored on them. But that defense is still I think they're just really good. They're really consistent, and these past couple of weeks, teams have been able to get a little bit more yardage on Texas A&M than usual than before, and some of the holes been figured out. But then the play of Marcel Reed has also kind of picked up a little bit too. Now he made a couple bad decisions, but that's okay. Gonna learn with that. But we got such a good defense and such a good pass rush, and that defense is overall good, and they complement. Now I know they got their standout star getting all the sacks. That's cool. That's great. But Cassius Howe being that standout star, but he also has a great teammates that are all impact players on that defense, and not just one has it going. Like they all get it together, like DJ Hicks, Marco Jones, TJ Cersei, like these guys, all these guys they put together, they all get together and they get the ball in it and doing their thing, man. They do. All right, so that's what I wanted to say there. All right, and great game with against LSU. They dropped another one. They're 5-3 overall, 2-3, and they're gonna play spoiler. They're gonna play spoiler. They'll get to a decent bowl game, but they definitely gonna play spoiler. But Texas A&M, they got a road. Except to them, except the A&M, man, and what A&M gonna do? Missouri, South Carolina, Sanford, and Texas. That's their last 4 games. That's what they putting up with. And we'll see what happens there, man. Next, moving on. All right. Michigan playing Michigan State. I didn't think that. I didn't they kind of struggle, but look, you're gonna see that out of a rookie quarterback. I mean, true freshman quarterback in the game. They beat them. That's the little brother. It's a rivalry game. It was 30. The final score was 31-20. They beat them by 11. That Michigan being 4-1 in the Big Ten right now. They're 6-2 overall. They're really not out of anything right now, which to me is like okay. That Michigan's still not out on anything. I think that Michigan and look, it showed in this game for sure. It showed in this game. Bryce Underwood was 8 for 17, but he absolutely should not have been. They lean on Justice Haynes. Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes stepped up phenomenal in this game. They both had over 100 yards carrying. That offensive line for Michigan is there. I think that defensive line is also there. Um, their weak point is receiving, and it showed in this game. It showed in this game. They have like, what do they do? What should they do? You know what I mean? Like, what should they do? Should they get put Jordan Marshall? Should they put Justice Haynes out on the perimeter at slot? I mean, at this point, that's kind of what it's starting to look like for Michigan. You need to put Justice Haynes out there at slot, and let's see what he get cooking, because it's that bad for receivers when it comes to Michigan right now. Michigan absolutely has no receivers. They were dropping passes. He putting it there. Bryce Underwood throwing passes. I'm like, how did he even fit that in there? That's crazy. That kid got a cannon. Like, he's special. And moving forward, like, they're gonna be a good football team. Like, Michigan is going to be a good football team, and they're going to be a problem for the Big Ten for at least the next 3 years, depending on how long Bryce decides to stay. They got to get some receivers in there, and that's evident. That is their weakness. I think passing that. Well, everybody knows that, but they think it's because of him. But I don't think it's because of him. I just think it's because of the receivers. Somebody got to step up and be a true. They got to step up and say, "I'm going to be that guy that we could depend on." that we could depend on to get this job done because they have no down threat. If they had a down the field threat, Michigan would absolutely be a problem. They absolutely would be a problem if they had somebody down threat because you can load the box on them, and that offensive line is still so good for Michigan that you can load the box on them and they still going to get the yards with Justice Hayes and Marshall. You're still going to be able to run the ball. And I mean, they got Ohio State at the end of the year, but that's it. But they got Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, and Ohio State. You definitely can say that they can win 3 of the last 4. And but they have to probably beat Ohio State. But look, they win 3 more games. I think that puts them at 9 wins for the year. I think that's something good to build on for moving into next year and trying to get some guys out of the portal and trying to entice some receivers to go to Michigan. Get some, hopefully they can get a good or 1 or 2 receivers up there. And once they get that and, secure another back, I think Marshall, he's going to be there. They're going to be the problem. But that is what it is. And I said that last week, and I mean, it's evident now. I mean, I'm standing on it. They need receivers. That's their problem with that Michigan. But shout out to Michigan, man, pulling that off. Michigan State, they played them tough. They played them tough. They did. They played a good game. That team being by 11 really don't tell the whole story. Was closer than that. They gave them a scare. They did. They gave little brother gave big brother a scare in that game. Definitely. Louisville and Boston College. That was another one of those games that was like crazy. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? Like, is Louisville, Boston College is playing Louisville tough like that? Well, yeah, they did. They played them real close. I thought Louisville will pull away, but then again, Louisville has shown signs of immortality. Like they're not. They can be beat. They've shown that. They've shown that multiple times this year. Like, and I don't. So I wasn't too, but I was surprised to see Boston College do it. They were 1-6 in the game going into that game, and they had no. I mean, you got Miller Moss, Isaac Brown, Chris Bell. Chris Bell just go from looking like one of the best receivers in college football to average in this game. They did a came out with a pretty good game plan against him, but they just couldn't stop Isaac Brown. Isaac Brown did what he wanted to do to Boston College in the game, and that when that happens, this happens. Did a phenomenal job in this game, man. They did a great job, but they put up 24 points. The final score was 38-24. They put up 24 points on them, and I'm like, that shouldn't have happened. I don't know how y'all let that happen. And they let their receivers get kind of busy on them, 244 yards. That's how much they let up on them. Grayson James, 23 for 46, 244 yards. He threw the 2 picks. They got 2 off of him, but 3 touchdowns. They also made Miller Moss turn the ball over once. And Colin and Lacey couldn't get going, but Isaac Brown had a phenomenal game, by the way. Louisville pulled it off. Louisville's remaining schedule for the ACC to try to make the ACC championship: Virginia Tech, Cal, Clemson, SMU, and Kentucky. That is their remaining schedule. Tough schedule. Tough schedule for Louisville. Yeah, Louisville fans, I don't know if y'all too happy about that. Kentucky put up big numbers, and Tennessee and Kentucky look like a college basketball game. Score 56-34. I thought it looks like a basketball game. Honestly, it just did. Great game though. Kentucky moving forward. What are they building at there? What are they building? They're 2-5 overall. They're 5 in the ACC. What is actually going on? Who are y'all moving forward with? Because Cutter Bowling this is the second week in a row that this quarterback has looked decent. Had over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, had a pick. Um, they y'all ran the ball well. They actually ran the ball better than Tennessee. They actually did. They actually did a lot of better things. They almost threw the ball just as best as Tennessee. I just don't think. I think Tennessee had one more better receiver than Kentucky in this game. But I mean, even defensively, when you look at this game defensively, you look and say, well, Kentucky, they kept up with Tennessee for the most part. Tennessee just was able to get, to in the end zone quick, man. They're able to put it together and they were able to do it quick. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just what that team tells you. It tells you that. You just look. I mean, it does. Like, and Kentucky tried to do what they could do, but Tennessee were able to do it and put it together quick, turnover, and they're able to turn the ball over a couple of times. Um, but it was a high scoring game. High scoring game. And Joey Aguilar coming from Appalachian State, continuing to be one of the best quarterbacks. Nobody thought that Josh Heupel was going to get a quarterback from Appalachian State and was possibly going to be talked about as being one of the best quarterbacks in college football, one of the best passers in college football. Joey Aguilar from Appalachian State, 396 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you got sat down right now today, and somebody looked you in the eyes and said Josh Heupel is going to get a quarterback from Appalachian State, give up Nico Imaliava, send him over West Coast to UCLA and get a quarterback from the group of 5 in Appalachian State, get him to Tennessee in the SEC and be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, you would look at yourself and like, nah, that ain't happening. It happened. It's real. It went down. Most definitely. And now Joey Aguilar is one of the best passers in college football, coming from Appalachian State. Good title evaluator, and Josh Heupel got the receivers around him, got a decent line around him, and Tennessee's offense is absolutely one of the most high-powered offenses, and their weaknesses come from the defense side of the ball. It just does. And as long as they can put it together defensively, I think they'll be all right. They got to be able to generate more pressure on a quarterback, but Kentucky's always been pretty decent in the trenches, but they got to be able to get to the quarterback a little bit better. But Tennessee's remaining schedule. Let's look at that, because I mean we've been talking about a lot of remaining schedules, right? Oklahoma, New Mexico State, Florida, and Vanderbilt. They're absolutely going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it these last couple of games. They can score. Oklahoma and Florida is going to be two defensive battles that's going to be tested. Vanderbilt's not that. Don't sleep on Vanderbilt neither, but yeah, they're definitely trying to earn it. Josh Heupel's team got their work cut out for them, so we'll see what happens with them. Houston being able to close out the game in Arizona State, like these late pushes by Arizona State, like what is going on with your team? Get your team together, get Arizona together. Like Arizona State, you cannot try to put together these late pushes and these late runs. That can't happen. That shouldn't happen. And when it does happen, like that's not good to happen. Can't let that happen when you're trying to push late and get that going. Can't get going too late. Get 24-16 and trying to get a late push and trying to score late. That's not going to happen. That cannot happen. Just can't. Hold on, babe. Yeah, that I can't. Like, come on. Like you got you making late pushes. You can't be trying to get back into the game late, man. And without Sam Levitt, Jeff Sims did okay. Yeah, I'm not going to like he did okay. But Sam Levitt is absolutely that team. Connor Wegman, he managed the game well. You can't say that he didn't, because he did. He managed the game well. He played his ass off in this game. Um, He just did 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground rushing. Had over 100 yards rushing and 200 yards passing. They did it without Tyson. Malik McLean stepped up though. They did it without. They need Tyson. And to get such a big win at Texas Tech, but then lose to Houston, which Houston, I think they lost to Texas Tech if I'm not mistaken. Um, it just pushed the Big 12 in this situation. Like Arizona State, I did not expect them to be where they're at. I just didn't. And I mean, and Houston early on didn't even when they lost to Texas Tech, they didn't even stand a chance when they lost to Texas Tech. But that goes to show you like the old Big 12 kind of cannibalizes itself, right? But they absolutely can win their last 4 games. Um at Houston, West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and Baylor. Those are all winnable games for them, without a doubt. So I think that puts them in a driver's seat because they already got past Texas Tech and Arizona State, which everybody out here thought that those would be the best teams. Um, I thought TCU would be a lot better this year, and Baylor, they can't sleepwalk through any of these games because it is the Big 12. And if they do, then they probably would wind up dropping one of these games. It's going to be a tough out for these teams, man. Tough. It's getting tougher. It's going to be, it's definitely get to that time late in the year where it's gut check time for these teams, man, and which teams are going to show up. But I just wonder if Sam Levitt's going to be healthy because look, Arizona State just don't stand a chance. But I still think that Arizona State still, if they can win the last 4, then and get some help, then their fortunes can change and they can possibly end up back in it. I mean, they don't got a chance to see BYU at all. Only if they can had a slim chance of getting into the Big 12 championship, but they can absolutely win out their last 4 games and finish off strong. They got Iowa State, West Virginia, at Colorado, and then they finish off with Arizona. So they absolutely can finish off strong and be a 9-win team. So it's not over for those guys. Not at all. It's not over for them. But those that late push in the game, I mean, Houston just dominated them the whole entire first half, and then they make a late push. Can't start games off that slow and then expect to win them. Like it's not every team is and it happened to them. They were the team that were winning and then kind of finished off last week because Texas Tech came back on them and they almost lost to that Texas Tech game. And but they tried to push late, and I think that some of the things that they were doing late in the game, they should have tried to have been taking those deep shots early. Like, and it seems to be that way. Like some did Willie Frankston and the respect he has. Like, did Arizona State respect Houston a little too much in his game and got the ball rolling late? You know what I mean? Like, would you say that? Like, they just like let's go for the gusto now. Let's take some of these deep shots right now. Let's get the pass game going. And I think that was part of the reason. I think so for sure. All right. Now we'll get into the picks and then we'll talk about the rankings right after, right? These college football rankings. I did a whole separate Colorado video just for y'all, but talk about the rankings, right? Let me take a drink. Drink break brought to you by Body Armor. Get your Body Armor. Body Armor, holla at me. One minute.